changing people's lives, I think is the biggest one, and helping out the youth is another huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think kids nowadays they need help, with everything that's going on with social media, with all these other distractions, and, they just need help finding themselves. And I think martial arts is a great tool for that.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wealth Beyond Riches, a show about reclaiming our relationship with work and money in exchange for greater purpose and impact. Today's story is we get to sit down with World Championship UFC fighter Ricardo Lamas. And we literally sit down because he was live here in the studio. Fortunately, there was no sparring involved. However, I will tell you which one of my family members gave him the final loss of his career. In today's conversation, as we're going to talk about the transformational power of failure, the pivotal role that a coach can play in someone's life, and transitioning from a career of prestige and success to one of significance and impact, and how to define that. From conquering the Octagon to charting a new course as an entrepreneur and coach in his post-fighting career, Ricardo's story serves as a guiding light for those seeking to embrace change and unlock true wealth. If you haven't figured it out by now, this is not another smart money show about hacking your way to riches. This is layers deeper, where our guests have thought long and hard about their relationship with work and money so they can leverage their true purpose and calling to have a greater impact. My hope for you is that you hear something that moves your life 1% closer to your true purpose. This is going to be good. Rick, thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem.
Joining me. It's really just me.
Nobody else is in the room.
No one else.
Trust us.
Yes, ignore the people behind the camera. But Rick, you and I met I just looked it up, February of 2020. You own one of 5 fighter-owned UFC gyms right here in Naperville, Illinois, where I live with my family. And we signed up for I think it was daddy-daughter boxing. Yeah, that's when you and I met for the first time. And then probably for the last 6 to 7 months, I've been working out regularly at the gym and getting to run into you, see you train people. I'm working with your business partner, Matt. And I don't know if people can tell looking at me, but I am stronger as a result.
I can see it. Whenever you're there, I see you pushing the weights hard every day.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's good.
Yeah. So we're going to get into fighting. We're going to get into coaching and training. But take us all.
You are going to fight? We're going to get into some fighting on the podcast.
I said that wasn't a good idea.
It's going to be a lot of action.
Yes. So stick around until the end for when Ricardo kills me. Take us back to the beginning. How did you get into fighting, or maybe even take us all the way to growing up? I know your heritage is really important to you, so weave that into the story. But I've never heard that. So
yeah. So I guess the obsession began as far back as I can remember. We have a couple VHS tapes from when I was a kid. I was like 4 years old. This is when we lived on the north side in Rogers Park. And it was my dad's first video camera, like a handheld, not really handheld, but back then it was like a shoulder.
Totally.
When you rest on the shoulder.
Yep.
And it must have been after we saw the first Karate Kid movie.
Oh, yes.
Because me and my brother were in our gi pajamas, and my dad was encouraging us to fight each other battle style. So we did a little kumite in our living room, and my brother kicked me in the face, and I started crying, and then I chased him around and so on. And that was one of them. And then there was another one after we watched Rocky IV where we had boxing gloves on. I had on my American flag trunks, and we boxed it up a little bit. But from a young age, I was always fascinated with martial arts. I think it started with Bruce Lee after watching like his movies and wanted to do what he was doing. So as a kid, like my parents, I remember, took us to a couple like trial karate classes, which I loved. And then as I got a little bit older, I kept bugging them to like sign me up at a Taekwondo place. So when I was about 9 or 10 years old, they finally did that, me and my brother. And we did that for about 3.5 years before we kind of called it quits, just because I got a little bored. Like all we would do is go to practice. There were like no competitions, nothing to be training for. So like 2 belts away from my black belt, we like stopped going.
It's amazing how much you need like that destination, that end
for
journey,
sure,
that goal.
Yeah. Otherwise you're just like, it's just like Groundhog Day, you know, you just waking up doing the same thing over and over. And at that point, my brother was about to go into high school.
Okay.
So it was his sophomore year.
Is he older than you?
He's older than me. Okay. Yeah, about 3 years older than me.
Nice.
His sophomore year, he went out for the wrestling team, unbeknownst to my parents, who didn't really. My dad didn't approve of the sport because of the weight cutting. I think, like he heard about it and just thought it was bad. So he joined the team without my parents' knowledge, and then it finally came out. But he'd come home and like bend me up into a pretzel every night. So. Just in order to defend myself when I hit high school, I had to join the wrestling team.
Yeah.
And that's when I got introduced to like competition, like one-on-one competition and started competing when I was 14 years old. So I kind of fell in love with that. I wouldn't say I fell in love with it. Freshman year, I was like a decent freshman wrestler, right? I was like 500, 15 and 13 on the freshman team.
Okay.
Didn't really know if I was going to stick with it. Ended up sticking with it my sophomore year just because my brother was still there and he didn't think I was going to. So I think I did it just to kind of spite him.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I could still do it. So sophomore year wasn't that great because that's when you make the transition from freshman team to like varsity, junior varsity, and didn't do well at all. I was like 3-11 on the varsity team, a little better on JV. But after that season, my dad took me to go watch the state championships in Champaign.
Okay.
And just being there in the arena and like seeing kids that were my age and some that were even younger than me, like wrestling in the state finals match, like they walk out with the spotlight on them.
Yeah,
and, you know what I mean? I was like, I want to do that.
Yes.
So it was like that was the spark right there that forced me to like wrestle all year round and really put like 100% into it.
Yeah.
So after my sophomore year, I started training all year round and. You know, went from like a decent kid on the team to like one of the best kids on the team for my years that I was there.
So it's like you saw a vision of like, this is what it could look like.
Right.
Or this is something to strive for.
Exactly.
And that just like lit a fire in you to go after that.
Yes, a big one.
Yeah.
So
was that the Assembly Hall in Champaign?
It was at Assembly Hall.
Nice.
Yep. And just watching all these guys compete, like with all these people cheering them on.
Yeah.
It was, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So that was like a huge goal of mine was to make it to the state tournament in high school, which never happened.
Yeah.
But,
wow.
You know, I tell everybody if it wasn't for my failures, I wouldn't be where I'm at, you know, because who knows if I would have made that goal and achieved that goal, I may have been satisfied and I may have, you know, stopped wrestling, but, not fulfilling that goal of mine. Again, like going into my senior year of high school, I thought about college wrestling. I thought maybe I wasn't good enough to do college wrestling. But after ending my high school career like that, I was like, I can't stop and end on this note. So that's when I made the decision to wrestle in college also.
Okay. So where'd you wrestle?
I wrestled at Elmhurst. Now it's called Elmhurst University. When I was there, it was Elmhurst College.
Okay.
So
awesome. CCIW.
CCIW.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
I swam at Wheaton.
Oh,
so
nice.
Elmhurst didn't have a swim team.
Yeah, you guys were in our conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we did not have a swim team.
Yeah.
You guys had some nice facilities over there.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So wrestled through college and going back to when I was younger, 10 or 11 years old, my brother comes home with a VHS tape of one of the first UFC events. And this was back when it was no weight classes, no gloves, no holds barred, like fighting bare knuckle.
Hang on, Rick. For our younger listeners, you said VHS. What
VHS?
What are we talking about?
It's one of those big cassettes that you put into a VCR.
Okay.
So it's not, you know, even DVDs they don't know now anymore, right? Now it's all like live streaming.
A disc? We're going to the library to get a what?
Yeah, we used to have cassettes about this big that we'd have to plug into a machine and watch it on the TV.
And then the machine would eat it.
Yeah, sometimes then you'd have to rewind the tape on there. And so he brought that home.
Yeah.
And growing up, I was always one of the smallest kids in my classes on my sports teams or whatever. I was really short, little kid. So I'm watching these UFC events and there's this one guy, Hoist Gracie. He's not the biggest guy on like the roster there that was fighting. He was maybe 180 pounds, but he was going up against guys that were like 230, 240, right?
Wow.
And beating everybody.
Wow.
And that like really caught my attention. I was like, man, that's awesome. You know, this littler guy is beating up all these bigger guys. And I'm like, I want to do that one day.
Yeah. Well, and you had practice in your home because you joined wrestling really to survive inside your home.
And it wasn't just that one older brother. I'm the youngest of 6 boys.
Oh, get out.
So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, they would, I was the one that was the last on the pecking order. So
wow.
I got all the tormentation.
Yeah.
I guess throughout the years.
And that's why you're so funny, because you're the youngest.
Yeah. It definitely gave me some thick skin and taught me how to make fun of other people. So like,
yeah,
you always hear Matt. My nickname in fighting was the Bully, and it was because of my English Bull Terrier. That was like my little mascot. But Matt's like, no, it's not because you're Dutch, because you're a bully.
That's a really good Matt impression.
But
by the way.
but I always tell everybody, like, if I make fun of you, it's because I like you. I don't make fun of the people that I don't like. So
that's good.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you're watching this VHS tape of this. What was Hoist
Gracie?
Okay,
yeah, Hoist Gracie. So the for those that don't know, there was a Brazilian family, the Gracies, and they took Japanese jiu-jitsu. And Helio Gracie, who was like the oldest one of them, kind of reformatted it because he was kind of a frail person, right? He wasn't very strong.
Yeah.
So he made the adjustments to Japanese jiu-jitsu and made it so that like a smaller person could subdue a larger person.
Okay.
And they became famous for Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So Japanese jiu-jitsu turned into Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And that was one of the pillars of MMA.
Yeah.
So the Gracies started up UFC. Actually, the reason for the 8-sided octagon was because each side was supposed to represent a style of fighting, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu, wrestling, karate, boxing. And they wanted to show that Brazilian jiu-jitsu was the best out of all the styles. So that's just a little history lesson on the UFC and how it came to be.
Is thumb wrestling one of the 8?
It could be.
Okay.
Why not, right?
I'm just curious.
Are you a good thumb wrestler?
No, not at all. I've got the hitch. Anyways, we don't need to go into that.
Yeah. I forgot where we were at.
The Gracie family.
The Gracie family, yeah. So they're a very famous family. And he would win all of like the first few tournaments of the UFC.
Is this before weight classes?
Yes.
Because this 180 fighting 230 sounds wrong.
Literally, there was a guy that was fighting a sumo wrestler, like a normal size guy against a sumo wrestler. So there were no weight classes. I think the only rules were no eye gouging, no fish hooking. I mean, you could even hit to the groin area back then.
Okay.
So
can we use those same rules later when we fight?
I will let
when
you
we spar.
use them, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I need all the advantages.
If you have a bat too or something.
Okay. Yeah, I might.
I'll run away if you grab a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really wanted to do it just from seeing that. I was kind of hooked.
Yeah.
And it was always in the back of my head, even though like when I got very concentrated on wrestling, that was kind of like my first love and focused on that. And when I graduated from college, I stayed on to help coach as an assistant coach. Me and Matt both did because we graduated the same year.
Okay.
But I remember that first year coming back to coach, I'd be on the sidelines and just really still have that fire inside to compete.
Yeah.
And at that time, I just graduated. So I was working as a personal trainer at the Park District near my house where I grew up.
Okay.
And one of the other trainers there had a background in boxing and Muay Thai. And I kept telling him how I wanted to fight and do this and that. And he's like, well, why don't you come by? He had a separate gym. So he worked at the Park District and then he opened up a gym in Elmhurst.
Okay.
And he said, come by the gym and you can learn some stand-up. So I took him up on his offer. I go there.
Stand-up is not comedy.
Right, not comedy, but stand up like boxing, kickboxing, striking stuff.
Okay,
because I was a pure wrestler.
Yeah,
like I did Taekwondo, but that was like when I was younger. So I went back, and my second week there, he's like, "Oh, I got you a boxing fight." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "I like you taught me how to throw a jab, cross, hook. That's about it."
Yeah,
but it was more of a test to see if I actually would go through with it.
Yeah,
because like I was talking so much about how I wanted to fight. So. I lost that fight, obviously, by decision. And
why obviously? I didn't think obviously.
Because it was like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's
2
true.
weeks of training. And like, and these like, so they call these like smoker events, right? Where a bunch of local boxers will come and just compete. And you don't really see their true records, right? Like some of these guys will have like close to 100 fights already. And they're just like fighting around the area. So I went up against a much more experienced guy and got outboxed and had a couple more of those, and I was like, okay, enough with the boxing. I want an MMA fight already. So we finally booked that, and that was in March of 2007 was my first amateur MMA fight.
Wow. That's really cool. So boxing, you lose a couple matches. I would assume that's physically very painful.
Yeah, I mean, coming from a wrestling background, to be honest, wrestling is a very rough sport.
Yeah.
There's no punches or kicks that can be thrown.
Yeah.
But I've come out of a wrestling tournament more beat up than most of my fights in the UFC.
Wow.
Like black eyes, I've broken my nose in wrestling.
Okay.
Just injuries all over the body. So it's a rough sport, and getting punched in the face wasn't that hard of a transition for me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So jumped into your first MMA fight. Let's fast forward all the way to the end. You fought for the World Featherweight Championship. Mm-hmm. Your career record is 21-8, maybe 9.
Yes.
9.
For those that don't know, Tim's wife had her birthday party at our gym, and to culminate the party, she got in the cage with me, and we put on a boxing exhibition. I like to call it, that's what's not going to count on the record as an exhibition.
It's like a friendly
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So she beat me up for a couple rounds.
So 21-9, just to be clear. Not 21-8. So world title challenger, tell us about like the UFC career. Like, was that always sunshine and rainbows? Was it difficult along the way? What was it like?
Yeah, it was difficult. So there were like, when I started this, I didn't know where it was going to go. Yeah. I thought, hey, let's have an amateur fight and get it out of your system. Yeah. You know, it's something you wanted to do since you were a kid. Yeah. But then
bucket list item, maybe we'll check it off and be done.
Yeah. But then it's like a drug, and it's like the most addicting drug that you can think of. So one amateur fight turned into 2, turned into 3, and then it turned into, well, I don't want to end on an amateur fight. Let's go pro. Yeah. Right. So then I turned pro. After my second pro fight, it turned into let's fight for a belt, which I was going up against another top guy in the Midwest, which, going back to my story about going to Assembly Hall, I watched this kid. I was a sophomore at the time. He was a freshman at the time.
Oh, wow.
Cal Ferry from Rockford.
Okay.
So he was wrestling for the state championship as a freshman. Wow. And he was a state champ. He was a 3-time state champ. He would have been a 4-timer, but I think he got into a little bit of trouble his senior year. Wasn't allowed to wrestle at state.
Okay.
So I knew who he was, coming up, and he was undefeated. I was undefeated. I was only 2-0. He was 9-0. The fight was in his hometown, so I had the whole crowd against me. But I went in there and finished him in the 4th round. So
wow. So finished him. If
I submitted him. Okay. So I got him in like a chokehold. He tapped out. Fight's over.
Okay.
But up until then, it was like a back and forth fight. Like he almost had me in a couple spots, and so after that fight was when I was like, I think I could take this thing as far as I want to. So that's when I focused. I think that was like the fight that kind of made me think that I could get to the UFC. Yeah. So, and it was only a few fights after that I actually got into a smaller organization called the WEC. Okay. Which back at the time when I was fighting like for that pro belt, UFC, their lightest weight class was 155 pounds. Okay. Which at the time I was fighting 155. Yeah. Then there was another organization called the WEC that focused kind of on smaller weight classes. So they had like 125, 135, 145. And so on. They were a nationally televised organization too on the Versus channel. I don't know if you remember that channel. So I got a call. Well, actually, I went to train one morning, or I went to work. I'm sorry, I went to work. So I usually go work, nap, train. Okay, right, and kind of like repeat back in the beginning of my career. So at this point, are you able to make a career out of fighting, or like I've got job, nap, and then training to fight? Yeah, it's job, nap, train. Yeah. Because my first pro fight, I won $400. Like it was $200 to show, $200 to win. Yeah. So that is an addicting drug because you're not doing that for the payday. No, not doing it for the payday. Yeah. Doing it for the glory, I guess. Yeah. You know? And so I was working as a personal trainer still at the time, which is a great job to have because you can make your own schedule. You put your clients where you want, and then you don't schedule anybody during your training times. Yeah. So sometimes I'd work early in the morning, go home, nap, go train, go back to work again. And this was like during one of my naps, like I wake up and I have like all these voicemails on my phone. I'm like, what is going on? So like I listen to it, and it's my coach at the time. It's like, hey, we got a great opportunity. You got to fight. We're going to Texas on Saturday. This was a Tuesday.
Yeah.
He's like, we're going to Texas on Saturday. We got in the WEC. And I'm like, what is going on? So I call him back, and he's like, come to the gym and like all this stuff. Like, cause I had to do all these like medicals. I had to start cutting weight because this was a 4-day notice fight. There was a co-main event spot where one of the fighters had to pull out of the fight for some injury or something.
Okay. Forfeited his $200.
Yeah. You got a little more than 200. But yeah, my coach just like accepted the fight for me. So I was like, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I went straight to the gym, busted my butt training. Luckily my weight wasn't too far off. I always did a good job of kind of controlling that. And then, so that was a Tuesday. Flew out like, I think Wednesday evening, right? Weigh-ins were Friday, fight was Saturday.
Wow.
And, that was my chance for the big promotion, for the big time. And I won that fight by decision, and, it just, snowballed from there. And then that was in 2009. So I fought for the WC for a couple of years. And then 2011, because the WC was owned by the same parent company, Zuffa, as the UFC. So they just merged the two together. So they brought a bunch of the fighters from the WC and just brought them into the UFC. And then that's when I made my UFC debut in 2011.
Okay. So you brought up two different scenarios where coaches just signed you up for fights.
Yeah.
We're kind of like the catalyst to like, you know what? I'm just going to give him an opportunity and see what he does with it. Tell me about a coach that you had along the way. A lot of us have coaches for different things, whether maybe we have a money coach or, like I've got Matt, your business partner, a training coach. Tell me about a coach and one of those coaches who like had an impact on you, and what'd you take away from their coaching that really impacted your life?
So there's a few, like, I would have to give shout outs to like a few people in my wrestling career and then beyond.
Yeah.
In high school, there was a guy that went to the same high school as me. He was older. He graduated, and in the off season, he like just donated a lot of his own time.
Wow.
Practicing with us, getting us to the gym. As a junior, senior in high school, you're going like, you could drive, you and your buddies, you're going out, doing whatever, going to parties here and there. So he'd call me like Saturday mornings after I'd been out late the night before and be like, hey, you got to get up, come to the gym. You play hard. Now you got to work hard. And I was like, you're right. So then I'd drag my butt out of bed and head to the high school to practice.
Yeah.
And then another big influential coach of mine in college, Alex Pons is his name. And he's from Cuba. So when he found out I was half Cuban, like that was it. Deal was done. Like I became like his little project. And he donated a lot of his time too, and really showed me what hard work could get you. Because I mean, I'd stay after practice with him. I'd go at 5:30 in the morning to train with him. And, and we were doing we were outside in the middle of winter doing sprints on the track at like 5:30 a.m.
Jeez.
But that just like my ability level just went up so high that year. And then another coach was Steve Marinetti, who was, he came in my sophomore year at Elmhurst.
Okay.
Backstory on him is he was an assistant coach at the University of Illinois, which my freshman year of college, I was at Parkland, which is a community college in Champaign.
Yeah.
My dream was to get into U of I and walk on the wrestling team there. I was given somebody's number to call who was in charge of transfers. This guy, Steve Marinetti.
Yeah.
So that year I'd call him like every week and like leave messages on his machines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, he'd never really call me back. So I give him crap to this day about that because it went like a full 180. And then my sophomore year, me and Matt were walking around campus and we saw the athletic director. And this was at a point where the coach from the year before had left. He kind of quit and moved on. So we didn't even have a coach, and we were like scared if we were even going to have a season.
Yeah.
And then the athletic director, we ran into him on campus, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I got this guy as an applicant for the head coaching job. You guys ever heard of him?" And handed us the resume. Steve Marinetti at the top. And like,
so he'll have to answer my calls now.
Yeah, Steve was a Division I national champion. He wrestled. He was a Pan American gold medalist. Wrestled internationally for a long time. He's a legend in the sport. So me and Matt knew right away who he was, and we were like, "You have to hire him." So he came on, and he really just took that team from nothing to, my senior year, we came in 6th at the national tournament as a team.
Wow.
So that's never been done before.
Yeah.
We were conference champs for the first time in the school's history.
Nice.
So just, he's one of the best coaches I've ever had. And right after that first professional belt that I won is when I was so at that time I was thinking about going back to school to get my master's degree.
Okay.
And I was offered a grad assistant position. So I would have went to school for free. Right.
Yeah.
And it was this D2 school in Missouri. So like, I'm wrestling with the idea. I'm like, do I shoot for this dream that might not pan out to anything? Or do I go get a free master's degree and focus on my career?
Yeah.
And I asked people who are most important to me. So like I sat down with my dad and talked to him, and, of course, as a father, he's going to tell me to go for the sure thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, no, you need to go to school. You don't know what's going to happen with the fighting, even though I'm sure he believed that I can get to wherever I wanted to be at.
Yeah.
He just wanted, education to him was very important.
Yeah.
And so then I went to Steve's office and kind of asked him the same question. I'm like, what would you do if you're in my shoes? And he's like, well, one of these things can wait till you're older. The other one cannot. Like right now you're in your athletic prime.
Yeah.
If you hold off, if you go,
which is what, like 40? That's athletic prime.
I'd say,
right?
Yeah. Right. Is that right where you are?
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Yeah. 40's a bit old, but 30, I was around like my late 20s at the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you hit your athletic prime as a man in your early 30s.
Yeah.
As long as
or 40, but
or 40.
We can agree to disagree. We'll settle this later.
If you ask me, I still haven't hit mine yet.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
So, he kind of put it in perspective for me that if I went and did this grad assistant thing, I'm not going to be able to go back to fighting. Education is something you can't always go back to.
Yeah.
You see older people all the time going back to school. So, he's the one that kind of helped me make my mind up on what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I called that school in Missouri and was like, sorry, I can't take the position. I'm going to chase this pipe dream of mine.
Yeah.
So, just went that way.
Yeah. How did your dad react to that?
He supported me.
Yeah.
He was a little disappointed, but my dad is even if he doesn't agree with what I'm doing, he's that type of father that will be there no matter what.
Yeah.
So like my first amateur fight, I told him, I was like, Pop, I really love UFC. I love competing. I signed up for a fight in 3 months, and he kind of saw it as like human cockfighting, and but he was there at the first fight, and he was there at every fight since, except I think for one. So he was my biggest cheerleader, and now he loves the sport. He watches it all the time when the big pay-per-views come on. He'll like come to my house, or we'll all watch it together.
Yeah. So at some point in your UFC career, you probably thought about what was next. When was that, and how did you start thinking about I can't fight forever? What's next?
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it wasn't like a clear, at one point. It was something that I wrestled with for a couple of years, actually.
That was a good pun, by the way.
Yeah.
Wrestled
pun
with.
Intended. So when I first started fighting, I was single. Didn't have a girlfriend, was focused on myself, because to chase a dream like this, you have to be you have to have all the time needs to be for yourself, right?
Yeah.
You need to be training, or you need to be recovering from training. You need you're
like
really
drinking raw eggs for breakfast.
didn't
stuff
do that
like
one
that.
too much, but yeah, if someone told me I needed to, then I would have.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I was single, just kind of doing it for myself, just to see how good I could be, right?
Yeah.
Then I met my wife and started dating her seriously. And that was hard because, for those that don't know, like, I'd train here in Chicago and for about half my camp, about a month. And then the month right before the fight, I'd go out to Miami.
Okay.
And I'd finish camp there with the team MMA Masters.
Okay.
And those are two other coaches too who really brought me to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Daniel Valverde and Cesar Carnero. So
okay.
Daniel's my BJJ coach. I'm a black belt under him.
Okay.
And Cesar was like my main MMA coach.
Okay, now we're canceling the fight afterwards. I heard all those initials. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
So Chicago, Miami.
So that was tough, just like leaving my girlfriend. We started dating seriously, and And then we eventually got married and had children. And, you know, when I first had my son, when he was a baby, they'd actually go to camps with me.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah.
Except for a couple times where, you know, they kind of stayed back. And the first time it really affected me mentally was like my son was still a baby, like crawling around, or not even crawling around yet. Like could barely hold his head up. Like he could hold his head up just kind of laying on his stomach.
Yeah.
So I leave for a month. I come back and like I see him, and thank God for FaceTime and stuff. Cause like I was worried if he was gonna like even recognize me.
Yeah. Right.
But it took him a second to like realize who I was. And then like this big smile came on and he crawled to me and I lifted him up and like just almost broke down because he was so strong already.
Yeah.
Right. Like he was able to balance himself in my arms and I felt like I missed a bunch.
Yeah.
You know, so that every time I'd have to leave them was very rough. So training camps got very strenuous for me.
Yeah.
Then I had even more kids. You know, I had 3 kids by the time I retired. So like every time I'd have to go away to training camp, it was just getting tougher and tougher.
Yeah.
Injuries, stuff like that, you know, getting older. You know, when you're younger, you tend to think you're Superman and nothing can stop you.
Yeah.
And as you get older, kind of those voices of doubt start creeping in your mind.
Yeah.
Like, are you getting too old for this? Are you still good enough? So it was probably since I think my fight in 2017, I was like that was when the idea of retiring started entering my head.
Okay. And you retired in
2020.
2020.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it
So
took
like
about
3 years.
Took about 3 years to finally hang it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I remember for one specific fight, it was against this guy, Jason Knight. Real good young up and comer. He was riding like a 5-fight win streak. And the day of the fight, I usually like to get out, take my mind off of it and go like walk around the town that the fight is at or whatever. So like I usually go get coffee too. So me and my wife, we walked across the street to get coffee, and I remember talking to her and I was like, you know, if I have a really good performance tonight, I think I might just end it on a good note and hang it up.
Yeah.
And she didn't believe me. She's like, yeah, right, whatever. And I did have a really good performance. I TKO'd him in the first round.
Wow.
And I was just like, nope, not gonna hang it up. Let's go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So it took a good 3 years, you know. And then I don't know what it was about the last fight. Just it was just the time. So that from 2017, and pretty much I'd say that every fight, I think this might be the fight. I think this might be the fight.
Okay.
And then finally in August of 2020, I ended it, and I ended it on the right note. You know, I talked before about failures kind of made me who I was, right?
Yeah.
And I'm very appreciative for them.
Yeah.
And it happened in high school, and it happened in college. Like in college, I wanted to be a national champ. That didn't pan out, and it pushed me to fighting.
Yeah.
So always ending those stages of my career on losses always stunk and like made me keep going.
Yeah.
So it was great to end my MMA career on a win, and not only a win, but we won a Fight of the Night honors.
Yeah.
And,
So what is that?
so Fight of the Night, they're kind of 3 bonuses they give out on each fight card.
Yeah.
There are 2 performance. So if you have like a great performance, if you knock the guy out or submit the guy, you're pretty much eligible for winning one of those bonuses.
Yeah.
The other one is Fight of the Night, and it's the best fight on the card. So both guys, the winner and the loser, win that bonus. It's like a cash bonus that they give us.
Okay.
So we won Fight of the Night.
Yeah.
So we were the best fight of the night, and it was just a great way to end my career, right? If I want anybody remembering me, I'd want them to remember me that way, you know, just for being a dog, for going in there and putting on a great performance. And, you know, my face was all bruised up, marked up, nose just pouring blood out.
Yeah.
That's how I want to be remembered.
Yeah. That's incredible. Man, what a cool way to end. So 3 years in, you start thinking, you know, you tell your wife, I think I'm going to retire. What did you think about doing? Like what was your planning like during that 3-year period?
So going back to college, like me and my business partner, Matt, we had always talked about, you know, back then it was, we should open up like a wrestling school together. Cause like when we were in college, we'd go around and we'd coach at these like different camps. Like we went back to my high school one time to coach like the youth program.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, can I bring my buddy with? So they'd like pay us for that. Just, you know, a way to get some cash while you're in college.
Yeah.
So we would do that together a lot, and we enjoyed it a lot. And we were like, man, we should open up our own wrestling club one day. So fast forward to, it was probably around that same time where I was thinking about retiring the first time, 2017.
Yeah.
And we were like, let's do this, and at that time, UFC gym had just kind of started up.
Okay.
So they were kind of new. It was, I don't know if you're familiar with like LA boxing.
No,
They were smaller, like boutique boxing gyms.
Okay.
So that was the company. They kind of first they converted all the LA boxings into UFC gyms.
Okay.
Right. And they were kind of popping up. So
yeah,
me and Matt decided, let's do this. Let's open up a gym. And we didn't know if we were going to go kind of our own signature gym or UFC gym. And I went to visit a UFC gym. And I really liked the vibe of the whole place. It was very family friendly. So I told Matt about it. I went back with him to visit the same UFC gym, and then he was kind of sold on it too. So that was around 2017.
Okay.
So we contacted the franchise.
Yeah.
It took us about like a year of talking and stuff just to get the ball rolling.
Okay.
And then we finally made our soft open in May of 2018.
Okay.
So it was a little over a year, and we went to this big conference in New York for all these like franchisees, and we it was just going from that to now is surreal.
And that's cool because you started making plans and even acting on some of those plans.
Yes.
Here's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to do both of these concurrently for a while, which I think for anybody thinking about a career change or retirement or something like that, I've heard this multiple times now. Start doing the other thing concurrently, as long as it's not killing you and burning you out. But hey, recognizing I have a season, this season is coming to an end, and work in this next season is going to look different. So that I think that's probably what I'm most curious about is, okay, when you were a kid, you went to, was it Taekwondo at the very beginning?
Yep.
And there was no fighting. There was no end goal. So it was like, then you were a fighter and there were all these notches along the way. What is now out in front of you that keeps you motivated? Like, what are the things that really bring you fulfillment with what you're doing right now?
Changing people's lives, I think is the biggest one, and helping out the youth is another huge one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think kids nowadays they need help, with everything that's going on with social media, with all these other distractions and, they just need help finding themselves. And I think martial arts is a great tool for that. You got these kids that come into our gym, and at first they come in and they're really shy and they're really timid and they don't really look at anybody in the eye. They don't even really talk to the other kids. And then fast forward a few weeks and they're like running around. We're like having to tell them to settle down.
Right.
That's what I love seeing. And I think there's a huge need for that. And so we try and focus on that.
Yeah. And the message a lot of kids get these days is, well, I guess it's probably a lot of marketing and social media saying you lack confidence because X, Y, Z.
Right.
And so you're giving them tools in their tool belt that say, I can have confidence because I know how to defend myself.
Exactly.
And you and Matt do such a great job at focusing on how can we give kids confidence? How can we give them tools? Tools they're probably never going to use. It's
hopefully
just,
not.
Yeah, exactly. It's just they have them if they need them, but they have the confidence knowing, hey, I've got this in my tool belt if I ever need it.
We in our kids programs, we use a lot of ethics and stuff from like old Japanese samurai. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of the Bushido Code.
No.
Bushido Code is like a list of 7 virtues that the samurais would live by, like discipline, honor, integrity, morality, heroic courage, stuff like that, sincerity.
Yeah.
So, before our youth classes start in our teen classes, I make them recite like one of the virtues, and then we go into practice because we want to, if you give people these weapons and you don't teach them the right ways to use it, they're going to misuse it. Right.
Yeah.
So we always teach these kids, like, it's great to have a sharp sword, but always keep it sheathed, make yourself a force to be reckoned with and learn how to control it. Is another thing that I like to say. So, and you see the confidence in these kids when they do build up those skills. They hold their heads up higher. They walk with their chests out a little bit. And it's something that everybody needs. Like you need, who wouldn't like to know how to defend themselves?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. And I love something I've always told Matt about coming to the gym, UFC gym in Naperville, shameless plug, is that family friendly atmosphere that, I don't know, it's more like a church where you walk in, somebody on your team is always saying, "Hey Tim, what's up?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know their name, but they just said hi to me. But always recognizing people are coming and going and they're being noticed, where I feel like most gyms you walk in and it's like, do I have enough muscles to be here?
Right.
Like, do I lift enough weight to be here? I even just saw one of the other customers like me the other day, and I was like, dude, you're maybe this is creepy, but I was like, dude, you're looking like really trim. Like I see you putting in the work.
Yeah.
It's paying off. And he was like, you too. Like that's incredible. And you guys have intentionally facilitated that atmosphere of desiring to see people's lives actually change.
Yeah.
Where most gyms, it's how many bodies can we get in here?
Right.
I've donated to gyms before. I have graciously donated monthly amounts and not gone. And that's the ideal gym customer to most gyms.
Yeah.
For you guys, it's people who are actually seeing change, which is cool.
Yeah, 100%. You know, Matt has done a great job too of I don't know how Matt does it. I have an excuse where I got punched in the head for 13 years, so I don't remember names too well. But I mean, Matt probably knows 95% of our members' names. We have like over 500 members.
Yeah.
You know, and as soon as they walk through the door, he's like, "Hey," and me, I'll be like, "Hey, Chief," you know, and start throwing out nicknames.
Yeah.
But
I feel like the "you" is really powerful. Hey,
you.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good one.
So that's what you're going to wear to work out?
Yes. Oh, the passive aggressive. That's good.
Yeah. So he does a really good job of that.
Yeah.
And you know, we love seeing people utilize the gym. We're not looking for donations. So like if we know you and we haven't seen you in the gym for a while, we'll call you up. Like I don't know how many times I've texted like some of my BJJ students being like, "Hey, haven't seen you in class lately. Where you been?" And then they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, I've been lazy." And then I'll see them in there the next day. So we like to follow up and make sure that you guys are using our gym fully.
That's awesome. You had a couple examples from early on of coaches who were generous with their time. How has that generosity impacted you? How have you tried to live that out as that impacted you?
I just try and give it back whenever I can. Yeah. So, you know, me and Matt donate a lot of our time to our old college. Mm-hmm. Matt is still technically like on the coaching staff there.
Yeah.
I kind of stepped away once my fighting career started to take off. Mm-hmm. But we still get the team up to our facility every Saturday, and me and Matt will donate our time in coaching them or putting them through workouts. Anyone that, you know, that Steve comes up and is like, "Hey, you know, I got this kid. It'd be great if you could work with them." I'd be like, "Sure, let's do it." You know, so actually one of our employees, Keone Durain, was a wrestler at Elmhurst. And when he was like a senior, Steve asked me to work with him. So I remember going up to Elmhurst and spending hours at a time with him and, you know, telling him, like making him film our practice sessions so he can go back and review it and study more. And just watching him grow as a wrestler and an athlete was awesome. And now I'm watching him grow as one of my jiu-jitsu students also. So just giving back whenever I can. Like I feel like if you were given all those opportunities and all those gifts, that you have to pay it forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. All right. Some fun questions. I like having fun.
Let's do it.
So first one, assuming you had all the skills you needed, all the contacts you needed, and you were the best in the world at it, what would be your dream job if you could just like snap your fingers?
You know, what I'm doing now is one of them. I have a couple different ones, so I won't bore you with, what I'm doing right now. But I love coaching, and I love bringing up the next generation of wrestlers, fighters, whatever it may be.
Because you guys are still training professional fighters. For the ring and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a kind of a small fight team.
Yeah.
Mainly comprised of a lot of our coaches who like want to compete and stuff. So that's going well, and we got some guys on the rise that should do big things in the future, I think.
Yeah.
But the other one is like I'm a huge foodie. I don't know if that comes from cutting weight my whole life, but I love cooking. So I think it'd be cool to like be a chef or own like a food truck or a restaurant or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you seen the movie Chef with Jon Favreau?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. It was pretty
man.
good. Yeah. And it was a food truck that he ended up
Yeah.
opening, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And it
like
was
down in Miami, I think, actually.
well,
too,
yeah, it was Cuban sandwiches.
Cuban sandwiches. Yeah. I make a mean Cuban sandwich. I'm going to have to,
a Cubano.
That's right.
Oh man. Yeah. We just watched that with the kids. We use this thing where you can filter out all the bad words. But like that having like just a passion about something, that's like, hey, here's a Michelin star chef. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to make the best sandwich in the world and sell it out of a truck. Like, that's just cool.
And then like, if I didn't have to worry about money, if I was just, and if I had all the skills, I would love to be like my kid's teacher. Just like have an RV, travel around the United States and teach them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like teach them actually stuff that's worth learning.
That's cool.
Not the educational system in this country needs to be revamped immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah. All right. Last question. What is your favorite thing right now? Could be anything. Could be, I don't know, a favorite product. Could be a favorite activity. What's one thing you're loving right now?
That's a tougher question. Yeah, I love the gym. I love going there every day. I don't even see it really as a job. Like I was trying to tell my wife, like, we kind of have arguments on who has it worse. Like, oh, but I got all the kids at home. Like, yeah, but I'm working all these hours, but, and I hope she doesn't watch this because like, it doesn't feel like I'm at work. You know what I mean? Just like going there, talking with the members, being a part of the gym family. And, it's honestly work is kind of one of my favorite things right now.
Yeah.
And my family.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sure, I don't know her, but I'm sure like you living out your fulfillment in life at work, like that's an incredible gift. That's really cool. Cause then you're coming home then with that same energy of,
it doesn't come without its stresses.
Oh, for sure.
Just worrying about the business and trying to figure out ways to stay afloat, especially during these tough economic times and be profitable. It definitely has its challenges and its stresses, but I love going to work every day. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Ricardo Lamas. He's a world title challenger, former UFC fighter, current UFC gym owner, one of 5 UFC fighter-owned gyms in America. It's here in Naperville, Illinois. If you're anywhere in the Chicagoland area, come check it out. But thanks for sharing your story. Just a couple things to sum it up. 1, your failures can make you who you are.
Yes.
2, a great coach who gives you that push over the edge, kind of like ties a rope around your waist and lets you like lean over the edge a little bit.
And they kind of show you the way.
Yeah, exactly. And they show generosity of time. And then also I think about transitions. Think about what's next. Start planning for what's next. Recognize when seasons may be coming to an end, and that's okay.
Yep.
You can't keep doing the same. Our life is finite. We can't just keep doing this stuff forever.
Yeah.
So
100%.
That's awesome, man. Good hanging with you today.
You too. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Hey there. If this episode impacted you, would you share it with a friend right now? That would mean a lot to me. And even better, if you could leave a review of the show. Maybe mention what part of this conversation stuck with you. On the first Tuesday of each month, we're going to bring you some more stories of great leaders who have learned what it means to be truly wealthy. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going to drop that on the first Thursday of each month. So keep an eye on that. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.